welcome back to our Ultimate Fast API series. And today our topic is how to do CRUD operations in Fast API. CRUD operations create, read, update, and delete. Like we have already seen how to set up our database, how to create our tables or database models. Now we are going to play around with them and we'll see how we can do the creation, reading, updation, and deletion from the database. So what we'll do is first we'll see what all functions we're going to do. So we'll create user, we'll create a route for it, get user, get all users, and I'll do create item. Suppose we'll take these four. That should clear your logics. So what all we'll do is, first of all, when we are done with the models or the base models or the tables that we want, the first thing that we should do is we should create a schemas.py file as I've created here, and we should create a schema for every base model. Like first of all, I'll take this class user. So for the class user, I'll just hit it here and I'll just, yeah. So what we'll do is I'll just do, and I'll also take class item. We'll only take these two. We'll skip the post for now. Yeah, that's it. So if you closely observe in class item, first we'll see the class item. ID that can be auto generated. Yeah. Title is what we want from user. Description is what we want from user. Owner ID is not something that we directly want from the user, right? The user that will be logged in, or we'll get it through the path parameter that we'll use, right? So this is one thing that is going to be common. So what we'll do is we'll start creating our schema. The base models, Pydantic base models, as I've told you already. So I just mean to say is for every database model, there needs to be a base model in Pydantic. I'll go to base model and I'll do is class item base. And I'll take title, which is string. I'll take description, which is again string. Now while creating an item, I need the request body from user. So item create, and this will not be base model, but this will be item base. Now item base already has title and description. Now what else does it need from the user? Well, it doesn't need anything else. So we'll just use it as it is. We'll just pass. Right. Now we'll create one item which will be our response model. When we'll deliver our response, that time this will be shown. So this will take base model, not base model, the item base. Now this has title and description. What all it needs? It needs ID, and owner ID. Okay, so we'll put ID, which is int, and owner ID, which is also int. Now we'll do one tweak. We'll create this subclass and we'll set this property equal to true. Now what this config class and this ORM mod tells is like these Pydantic models, these are made that they can deliver to a dict, they can be converted to a dictionary, or from a dictionary they can read and make a model, right? They cannot make an object from by reading from a dictionary. But when this ORM mod is true, at that time, instead of taking a dict or a dictionary, they can directly take a database model object. From this object they can create our Pydantic model. So for this we need to set ORM mode equal to true. Now this is for the item. Now suppose for the user, what we'll take from the user, ID is auto generated, email we'll take from user, password we'll take, and is active is for now it is default only, and password also hashed password will be saved and we'll take just password. So what we'll do is we'll create a user base model which will just have email for now. Now I'll just take user create base model. Now while creating user, I need email, which is already in our user base. What else I need? I need one password, which is string. Nice. Now what else? While delivering the response in the response model, I'll use user base, and what I'll use is ID I need to give of the user, then email is already there, and what else we can check? ID, email is already there, hashed password we can't show, is active will show, and will also show items. So is active, which is a bool, and will also show items, which is a list of this item only. Item, and we'll just set the default like that, right? And same for here, uh, especially for the response models, when we need to convert from the database model to our pydantic model, we need to make use of this ORM mode. So I'll set it to true. Now we are done with our schemas or the structures or the base models. Now the next thing is the main CRUD operations. So for the main CRUD operations, what we need to do is, the best part is that that's what I follow is, we can just create one service.py file or crud.py file. So I've created one service.py file. So what we'll do in this is, from SQL alchemy.orm import session, because session is our database session. We, for every CRUD operation, we need a database session or a request to the database. So we'll use this, and we'll import our models and schemas, right? So we'll what do we define in service? We define individual function for one particular action. Like suppose what I'll do is get user, and now this is created to get user from user ID. So I've created this one service function which will give me return the user by taking in this user ID. So first thing, every service function, every CRUD function should take is session, that is the database request or the database session, so that it can query the database. Next thing, I'll take in user ID, and I'll just do, this is really important. What I'll do is db.query. Now query over which table? Models.user. Now I'll do filter out. Filter. Now what this filter is the most important and the most frequent used method. And what I'll do is models.user.id should be equal to our user ID. Now this will filter out, and this will return a list. I will just give the first one. That's how. Now next we can create one. Suppose get user from email ID. So def get user from or by email. Again, session has to be there. Then email has to be there, which is a string. Now I'll do similar to what I've done above. Models.user query filter models.user.email should be equal to our email, and we can match, yeah, email, and dot first. Yeah, simple as that. Now what we'll do is we'll do get all users. Df get users or all users. First is db session. Now next is, suppose we'll take some skip and limit as well, and whose default is 0 and limit as well, because this is important to keep skip and limit, especially limit, because there can be thousands or lakhs of rows, so better to keep some limit to apply pagination also, which is int, and this is 100, suppose for now. So I'll just do db.query .models.user. Now this will give me all the users, this without any filter. Now what I'll do is I'll just put some offset. Offset is like to skip how many, and then limit is limit and dot all. Yeah. So offset and limit already given to us by SQL Alchemy. Now what else we need to do is we can create one for creating user. Okay, df create user db session is the first one. Now we'll take this schema, user create. Yeah, that's why we created the schema. So we'll take user, which is going to be our schemas dot user create. And yeah, so what we'll do is first we'll hash password. Hashed password is we're using hashed password. Yeah, we are. This will be suppose user dot password. User dot password comes from here. User has to provide a password plus some random hash, right? So now what we can do is now we'll create a object of this database model. So what we'll do is db user is models dot user, and we'll just give an email equal to user dot email, and we'll just give hashed password equal to hashed password, right? So this way the user would be created. As you can see, the user only needs ID. Auto generator is active. We have already given the default value. So this all is needed. Now we have created an object. Now we need to add it to the database. So I'll do db.add and db user. Now this is added to database now, but this is not committed yet. For every SQL operation we need to commit. So I'll do db.commit. That's it. Now I'll just do return db user. That's it. Simple, fair enough. Now next thing is that we can do is we can get items, get all items. Def get items, db session, and we can do is skip, same as above. We can do limit, same as, and we'll just loop query over our models dot item and then offset, which is skip, then limit, limit, and dot all. Now what we can do is suppose I need to get item of a user. Def get items for user. Session will take, and we'll take some user ID. Now what we'll do is db.query models.item and dot filter. Now with filter, if we see in item we have a owner ID, so we can filter by owner ID. So our models.item.owner ID should be equal to our user ID. That's it, and we can return all. Now let's just do create item. So these are all the service functions that we are creating, right? Def create user item or just item. Now when creating item, we need to have one user ID. So that will be provided to us. DB session, and we'll have an item. Item that is to create item, we need this item base title and description. So schemas dot item create, and we'll also take user ID. Now what we'll do is we'll create the item. Models dot item. Now one thing is I can do something like item title and description needed. What I can do is title equal to item dot title, like that. Or the other thing is I can directly spread it, item dot model dump. This will create key value pairs like that. And one is owner ID. Owner ID will be equal to our user ID, right? So now this the object is created. We need to add it to database. Now we need to commit it, and now we'll return it. That's it. Simple enough. So this is how we create our service functions, or where we write our business logic. These are the CRUD operations. Now, but we'll move to our main FastAPI app where we'll define our routes. Okay, so here it is. But before that, there's one thing we need to make clear now. For every request, we need one session, database session. So for that, we'll create one function that would return us database session. Get DB, and this will create a object of session. And now what we'll do is instead of returning, we'll do yield. Yield. Now what yield will do is when someone did request for session or the database session, this yield will give the session, and once that operation is done, so the control will return back to this function, and what it will do is finally db.close, like that. If I'll just return, I'll not be able to close this. So we'll do yield. So what yield will do is this will um, give the db session to request, and after request completed, control comes here and closes session. So this is how this works. So this function is a generic one, and we need to make sure to write this. Now we'll create our routes. So what we'll do is first one is to suppose to create user. So slash users, and we'll define a response model as well. Okay, let's just import models and schemas. So our response model, we'll check from response, this one we need, right? Is schemas dot user, right? What we'll return. Now create user. Now what we'll need is we'll need one request body. We'll go to schema as I've already told you, and we'll need this one user create. Schemas dot user create, right? And most important, we need db session. From SQL Alchemy, we'll import session. Did I miss something? Okay, .orm, yeah. .orm import session, yeah. So what we'll do is db session. Now this is now we can't directly do like sorry, from db import get db. No, we can't directly do like get db and like that. No, this won't is the thing that we'll do here. Instead, we'll use something that FastAPI gives us for dependency injection. This topic of depends or dependency injection I'll try to cover in next videos as well. I'll give a brief overview. Now depends is like I have like this for creating this route, I have a dependency on this get db to get the database session. So whenever we have a dependency of one function on the other, we should let FastAPI handle that dependency on its own. So it depends. FastAPI will take care to like handle this dependency. Once it's done, it will uh, delete that object and all. So it won't be our headache to take care of it. So I'll try to cover this in more depth in upcoming videos. So for now, we'll use this. And what I'll do is I'll just first of all, um, I'll try to check if that email ID already exists, right? Because we can't take the same email ID. So what I'll do is I'll import our service as well. So I'll do is service dot get user by email user dot okay, first we'll pass db, then I'll pass in uh, user dot email. Now if db user, like if the user is found with that email ID, we'll return some http exception. An exception we'll raise http exception, and the status code 404, or not 404 is for not found. We'll use 4 and 400. Detail would be email already in use, like that. Otherwise what we'll do is we'll just create that db user is equal to service dot create user, and we'll just pass db and user, and we'll just return db user, like that. Now what else we can create? We'll create one app.get of all the users, suppose users, right? And the response model will be a list of schemas dot user. We'll be returning all users, right? Oh, sorry, yeah. And I'll create get users skip. I'll take as a query param, limit I'll take as a query param, and database session, which is a dependency using depends get db. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll get users from our service dot get users. Yeah, this will take db skip and it will take limit. Yeah, and we'll just return users like that. Next, what we can create is we can get a user by user ID. Users and what we'll do is user ID will take, and the response model is going to be same as our schemas.user. df get user, and we'll take user ID, which is going to be int, and db, which is going to be our session. Now what we can do is just depends get db, right? And we'll get the user, and or what we'll do is we'll first check db user service dot get user db user ID. Now if not db user, if it is null we are not getting any db user, or if not, instead of that we can use if db user is none directly. Is none, that means the user ID is invalid, that user is not found. So we'll raise HTTP exception, status code 404 because not found, user not found. Simple as that. So these are the routes we created for the user. First we'll check these, then we'll come back to the items. I'll try to run it and boom, let's run this. Okay, we'll ignore this warning for now. Talks. Okay, first we'll create a user. Email is suppose rohan@gmail.com. Password is Rohan. Boom, it gives us. Now what we'll do is the ID of Rohan is 1. What I'll do is get all users and I'll let it be 0 and 100. Boom, works fine. Or I'll skip one. Boom, I've skipped the first one only. So works fine. Now we'll use the user ID, and user ID, suppose I'll give 1. Okay, that has given me some error. Let me check the error. What is? Input should be a valid dictionary or extract field. User ID. 1 second. Okay, user ID was given to it. We'll just check it out. Exceptions response validation error. Okay. Okay, the main thing is I haven't returned any response. I just saw. So what I can do is db user. Yeah. 1. Yeah. Now it has returned me the user, and if I'll do 2, not found. And let's just try to create one more user using Rohan, and email already in use. And this time let's say Mohan. Created. And we'll just do our skip 0, and it has given me all the users. Right. So this works fine. So what we'll do is we'll come back to our routes and we'll add one route to create item. Now users, and this will be user ID, and it will be items. Now the response model is going to be our schemas dot let me just check. This is going to be our item, schemas dot item, and def create item for user. What we'll do is user ID will take as a param, and we'll take one request body which is item, which is our schemas dot item create. And what we'll do, db is required, db session, which depends on get db. Now what we'll do is we'll just create it. So item is the service dot create item. Now create item db it will take item, it will take user ID, and we'll just return item. Now we'll get all items, suppose dot slash items, and response model is schemas dot schemas dot item, and which is going to be a list as all items we are returning. So what we can do is we'll create a function get items, and we'll just do db, or we can put skip and limit. I'll just put skip and 0, query params limit also 100, and I'll just take in db session, which is going to depend on get db. Now we'll just return service dot get items, and which is going to be our get items db skip and limit. Now let's just create one more for users, user ID, and get items for a particular user. Now the response model is going to be our list of schemas dot item, df get items for user, and it will take user ID, int, and db, which is going to depend on get db. Now what we'll do is return service dot get items for user. This will take db and user ID. So let's just run this app again, and we'll try everything out. And okay, let's just create one for Rohan item. Yeah, created. And let's just create one for Mohan. Mohan item. Works fine. Let's just get all items first. Yeah, we've got both. And let's just do one for a particular. Suppose I want to get for Mohan. Yeah, Mohan item. Suppose I want to do for Rohan item. So you have only one item, so it is shown like that, single. So this is what CRUD operations, how they are handled in FastAPI. I hope this has cleared your basics and your logic, how you can write your business logic. Just need to take care of certain things. App.py, you define your routes, and then db.py, you set up your database. This needs to be generic one using yield, and then database models you need to create. Once database models are created, create schemas, create your Pydantic base models. Base models start with the base model which is common in all, then create the one which you are going to take as input from user, the one which you are going to give response to the user, like that. So I hope this video clears up your logics. Thank you.